Good morning, everybody. So, as rightly introduced, my name is Shehu Mohammed, and I'll be your guide in the first session today, which is titled Introduction to DNS and its Management. This course material has been put together by members of the Technical Services Department of NiRA, and it's a privilege for me to be the one that will deliver the session. So today, here are the things we are going to be looking at. We are going to look at the brief history of the internet. We shall look at what IP address is and what a domain name is. Then we'll look at the various components of DNS and how they work together. We are going to look at the DNS industry and the various stakeholders and the role they play in the ecosystem. We'll look at the various tools used for DNS management, and we'll look at some best practices for resellers. Then we'll round it up with questions and answers. So, brief history of internet and DNS. In 1920 to late 1950s, we have voice communication, and telephone networks is what is being used. But the challenge we have with circuit switching network is anytime anybody is using the circuit, other people need to wait. Imagine a scenario whereby just because a car is passing, other car users need to wait for that car to leave and the road will be free for other people to use it. So it means only one person can send at a time, and that created a lot of limitations. So in 1969, we have ARPANET, and they have the first packet switch network. So in packet switch network, more than one person can use the link at a time. Packets can pass through various routes to get to their destination. So US Department of Defense came up with that, and it was able to connect various universities and research centers as at that time. So in early 1980s, we have host files and computer shared host file, which is just like a text-based file that contains domain names and IP address. It was manual, and as the number of users on the internet increases, it was quite difficult for it to be maintained. So in 1983, we have DNS, and it was proposed by Mr. Paul. So the host file was replaced with an hierarchical distributed naming system. Then we also have various top-level domains like the .com, .org, which came on board. So in 1990s, we have commercial growth. The web is now public, and we have various registries and registrars, which came on board. Then DNS scaled globally. So in 2000s, we have ICANNs and CCTLD. So ICANNs oversee the DNS coordination, and various countries now own their own CCTLD, just the same way Nigeria owns the .ng. So as of today, the DNS is a critical infrastructure, and it is what powers most websites, email, cloud services, and various Internet of Things we use. And we have a security part of it, which is DNSSEC, and that is where we are currently. So let's look at the importance of IP address in DNS. See, an IP address is a unique identifier for devices on the network. Let's look at it as our name, which is unique, okay? So IP address is so unique in such a way that no two devices share the same IP address on the network. So why is it that IP address matters in DNS? The first thing is DNS cannot function without IP address. The reason is it is the final destination for every domain name, and it enables device to communicate over the internet. Okay, so let's look at the various types of IP addresses. The first one is IP version 4, which is 32 bits, and the various octets, which is 4 in number, is formed by combination of the numbers from 0 to 255. Example is this 192.168.1.1, and it is the most common IP address you will see on the network. We also have IP version 6. When you compare it to IPv4, it's 228 bits long, but this is not formed by decimal. We have both hex and decimal that is used to form it. So we have from number 0 to 9 and alphabet A to F. So example is what is listed there. You can see how long it is. So it allows larger pool of IP address and it supports trillions of devices used in modern networks. Okay, and because IP version 4 is becoming exhausted, a lot of networks are now migrating to IP version 6. So this is just explaining further the structure of IP address. You can see the various octet here, 4 octets. This is the binary representation of each of the octets. And on all devices, there is need for you to type in a unique IP address, which is what has been typed here. Okay. Then we have the subnet mask, which identifies the network portion of the IP address. Then we have the default gateway, which is what we have here. So the default gateway is what is used to communicate with other devices that are not in your own local area network. And as you can see here, you have the space for the DNS. Okay, let's now look at introduction to DNS. In this session we are having, you all know my name, right? But if I call on somebody who does not know me and I say, oh, call my phone number, it's going to be difficult for that person to reach out to me. So knowing my name is not sufficient for you to be able to talk to me on a mobile phone, which means it's necessary for you to have my phone number before you can talk to me, okay? So in our daily operations, we save contacts of people. There must be a name matched with a particular phone number for which we'll be able to talk to them. A similar thing happens on the internet. If you want to reach any resource on the internet, there is need for you to know the IP address of that resource you want to reach. But the challenge now is we human beings, we have difficulty with numbers. You can see how long the IP version 6 address I showed you earlier is. Imagine if you need to cram that for each of the various websites you visit every day. It's going to be a very, very difficult task, okay? So the challenge we have is we are not very good with numbers, and computer systems too is not comfortable with names, okay? So computer use IP address to communicate. We human beings, we are comfortable with alphanumerics. So people cannot remember IP addresses easily. Then the human problem with numbers, we can solve it by using names. So instead of us to now use IP addresses to communicate on the internet, we can now use familiar names like www.nira.org.ng. I can't forget that one because I know it's a name. But if it is the IP address of that site, it's going to be more difficult. So there's not a solution for human being. They can use name, but computer systems still have a challenge. They cannot use what? That name. They can use IP address. So there's not a solution for both this problem identified with computers and humans. And the problem is we are now going to have a central device that is going to now be a translator for both names and IP addresses. So this central device is comfortable with using numbers and names. So anytime any request comes, it can easily do the translation for us. So the system is just going to map IP to names and vice versa. So the next question now is, how is mapping from IP to domain name done? And the way that is done is by the use of host.txt and DNS. So let's look at what host.txt is. So before the DNS came into existence, what they were using is the host.txt. And it is the file for ARPANET, which is the network we had before internet. So it is centrally maintained and distributed to all hosts on the internet. So what it does is it maps domain names to computers. And at that time, host.txt was sufficient for their needs because the number of devices connected on the internet were less than 1,000. Okay, so changes were submitted to SRI via email, and machines will periodically use the file transfer protocol to send new copies of the host.txt. So network admin can pick any names at their discretion. Any name was allowed, but it has some limitations. The first thing is there is long initial delay because updates were manually processed by hand. Imagine if I want to register a domain name. I've picked the name, the IP address is available. I'll now send it to SRI. So before it gets there, so it takes a lot of time. And once a domain name is claimed, no other person could use it, okay? So if you register a domain name on one TLD, like what we have today, it's possible to register it on another TLD, but those days, it's not possible to do that. And the feature still exists today and it's relevant. So if you are using a Mac or Unix-based system, if you go to this location, etc/host, you can see IP addresses and names in front of it. Okay, so what it means is if you want to visit this site, okay, this is the IP address you need to get there. And if it's a Windows-based system you are using, you can find the host under C Windows System 32 drivers etc.host, and you'll be able to see where you can type IP address and the domain names. So moving forward to what we have now. The host.txt fell apart because as the internet was growing, the traffic too was growing. It's always outdated. There is issue with consistency, single point of administration, and it's hard to enforce names. So as a result, DNS came into existence, and DNS is like the phone book of the internet. It translates domain name to IP addresses, and it provides a mapping of names to IP of various resource types. So it's just like our phone book where we have the name of somebody and phone number or mobile number we can use to contact that person. Okay, so anytime we need to contact that person, we don't even need to care about what the IP address of that person or the phone number is. All we need to do is just to dial the name and the computer will automatically call out the phone number. Okay, so your device does not care about what you save the name of somebody with. It only cares about the phone number it will use to contact that person. Having said all this, let's just use this quiz to bring some energy into the classroom. And my first question is, what is the logical address? What logical address does a device on network use to identify itself and communicate with other devices on the internet? Who is helping us out? Have I been talking to myself? Am I the only one here?
I'm hearing you, sir.
Okay, who is attempting this? Okay, thank you, Cindy. IP address, yes. So the next one, what easy to remember identifier the humans commonly use to access and communicate with websites and other online resources on a network? This appears to be a difficult question, right? Hello?
Someone commented DNS on the chat box.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing the chat right now. So, okay, thanks for that. And the next one I'm asking is, okay, this is going to be like a self-test. And I believe all of us must have used the internet before. So there must have been a website we visit often, right? I know Google would be one of the first things that will come into your mind. However, if I ask you to give me the IP address of that domain name you visit often, I know it's going to be a challenge, okay? Because we don't really care about the IP address mapped to the domain name. All we care about is we want to visit this site and we type. Or is there anybody here that can tell me the IP address of a site he or she visits often? Anybody? Okay, let's just proceed to save some time. Well, it's possible you don't know this, and sincerely, I don't think there is anybody that cares to know the IP address that is mapped to a domain name is visiting. And we need to be grateful to DNS, because without DNS, it would have been necessary for all of us to know the IP address of the site we want to visit. And sometimes it's possible to move computers between networks. When you move computers between networks, definitely their IP address will change. Okay? It's not necessary for you to change the domain name when you move computers between network, because the IP address will be updated. So the domain name remains regardless of the network that the system belongs to. So DNS make it easier by allowing familiar string of letters to be used instead of IP address, which is more difficult for we human beings to make use of. So how many IP address do you think we have to memorize if we don't use DNS? Quite a lot. So the next thing we are looking at is domain name and top level domain. So a top level domain is one of the domains at the highest level in hierarchical DNS. So the first hierarchy is the root, which is the dot you are seeing. Then immediately after the root is the top level domain. So we have various top level domains, okay? And IANA distinguishes this based on what it is used for. For example, we have infrastructure top level domain, we have the generic top level domain, we have the country code top level domain, like the .ng. Then we have the new generic top level domain and others. So the top level domain name server is the next step in the search for IP of a particular domain name. So in this site, nira.org.ng, the top level domain there is the .ng, because that is what comes immediately after the root, okay? And in google.com, the top level domain is going to be .com. Still on DNS, we've explained what a domain name is, DNS is, and a domain name is that human readable unique identity within a specific TLD. It's not possible for two organizations to have the same domain name on the same TLD, and a domain name always consists of two or more components separated by dots. For example, in www.registrar.ng, okay, there is always an hidden dot that is after the top level domain. So in this example I gave you, notice after the dot, after the ng, there is a dot. That dot represents the root, even though it is always ignored, but functionally it is there. So next time you visit a site, after typing the address, put a dot behind it and see what happens. It's still going to resolve the same way it does on a normal day, okay? But it's necessary for you to know that, yes, the resolution process starts from the root, which is that hidden dot that we always don't put there. So DNS is a distributed database for holding names to IP address and other information. What that means is the whole of DNS information is not with a particular organization. It is distributed, okay? So this ensures the administration is shared, the load is also shared, and it is hierarchical. It has various levels. And beside that, it is robust. Robust in the sense that it is possible for you to replicate the records of the DNS in various places. And it is also possible for you to catch this result. What catching does is it puts this record in a location that is closer to you for easier access. So subsequently, when you need it, you don't need to go to a far place where that record is. Okay. Then it uses simple client to server architecture. By default, it's on port 53 using UDP, but we have some implementation that makes use of TCP, which is more reliable. The next component we are looking at is the resolver and namespace. So the namespace is the hierarchical structure that organizes domain names. Okay, so this is the namespace. This is the root I told you earlier, which we always ignore in our domain name, but it's there. So from the root, we have the various top-level domains. You can see .ngcctld here. We have .com, .org. So they all belong to the top-level domains. So after the top-level domains, we now have the .ng being cascaded to other zones. So these are the various zones we have under .ng. And here is now a fully qualified domain name registered under .com.ng zone. Okay, so you can see google.com.ng, nira.org.ng. Okay, I can come here and register maybe a school, maybe school.name.ng. So let's look at this like our folder. We have a folder called root. Inside that folder root, we have various TLD. Inside that TLD, we have each of the TLD being broken down into various zones, and that zone can now be broken down to fully qualified domain name. So this is just the domain name space. So next is the resolver. And resolver is a software on a computer or any other device that initiates DNS query process. So any device you can use to access the internet, there is a software on it called resolver, which is used to initiate the query process. Another component we are looking at is the name server. And name server answers and stores DNS queries. So after answering your query, the name server will keep the response. So whenever there is a need for it in the future, it can easily provide that response. Okay. Then each domain name must have at least two name server, primary and secondary, for redundancy sake. So we have various types of name server. We have the root name server. And the root name server is the authoritative name server for the root, which is where the query process starts from. We have 13 root DNS servers labeled A to M. So the root DNS is also responsible for the various top-level domain name server. So the top-level domain name server manages the domain names within a specific TLD. Okay, so the .ngcctld must have its own top-level domain name server, likewise other top-level domain names. Authoritative name server is the official server of a specific domain name, and it holds the actual records of the domains and IP addresses. So we have recursive name server, and what this does is it's like a middleman. It directs the resolver to authoritative name server. We have the caching DNS server, which is a temporary storage location. It stores DNS query to improve performance and reduce the load. For stub resolver, it sends DNS query to recursive server, which then performs the lookup on their behalf. Finally, we have the master or slave DNS server, and what this does is it replicates the DNS server on other server to ensure redundancy and high availability. So the next thing we are looking at is DNS components, and what we are looking at here is the zone file. So the zone file provides information about a domain name and instruction on how a server will handle requests. And there are different types of resource records you can find in the zone file, like the SOA, the name server record, the MX record, which is used for mail exchange, the pointer record, the TXT record, and other records. We did mention the root name servers earlier. We have 13 of them labeled A to M. These are their host name, the IP addresses, and their operators. As mentioned earlier, the root is the starting point of the query process, and it is contacted when names cannot be resolved. When a system does not know how to get a name, it will start with the root, and the root will be able to answer. So this is just a map that illustrates where all the roots are. And regardless of where this is on the globe, it's even possible to have a copy of it very close to you. So anytime you need to resolve a record, it won't go through the long process of where to contact the roots. So this is just an illustration of how the DNS query works. So this rectangular area is a local area network, and here is a system. The user here on the web browser type in www.academy.ng. Okay. So what this system will do is, the first thing it will do is, it will check the host.txt. Remember we mentioned host.txt. If we check, maybe there is a record where www.academy.ng is an IP address. So when it checks and there is no record, the next thing it will do is it will contact the router, the default gateway, okay, which is also where the DNS server is. So the DNS server will now check its own self. Maybe it has cached that response. Maybe in the past, somebody has asked and the record is available in the cache. So when it checks and that information is not available, remember we said if a system cannot get the IP address of a domain name, the first thing it will do is it will contact the root. So the DNS server here is now contacting the root. And like we mentioned, we have 13 of the root. So it will contact any one of them based on the one that is closest from the point where this query is being asked. Then the root will now say, oh, I don't know. I don't have the name server for academy.ng, but I am responsible for .ngcctld, okay, is responsible for the name server. It should know the name server because .ngcctld is immediately under the root, so it knows the name server. So, oh, I don't know academy.ng, but I know the name server of .ng. The name server of .ng is 1.2.3.4. So the local DNS server will now use that IP address 1.2.3.4 and ask any of the .ng name server, I want academy.ng. And .ng name server will now say, oh, I know academy.ng. That name server, this is the IP address of academy.ng name server, which is 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then that IP address 567 and 8 is now passed to academy.ng. Can you give me the IP address of academy.ng, in this case 180.245.20.15? And immediately that response gets to this place, it is now cached. The essence of being cached is it is now going to put this IP address in a storage location locally. So anytime anybody needs to reach that domain name in the future, it is not necessary to contact the root. It will easily pick it from this cached. And cache has something which is called time to live. Time to live is the expiry time of this record. So if the time to live, for example, is 2 hours, it means after 2 hours, this record will be deleted. And subsequently, whenever anybody asks of this again, the lookup process will start from the root. Okay, now that we have the IP address of academy.ng, the IP address goes back to the system that is requesting, and the system can now use the IP address to communicate with the web server of academy.ng. In this page, you can see it's request get page, login page is sent, username and password imputed, and account data is now available. So that's what happens. Forget about the number of steps. All this is happening within seconds, and we're all happy that yes, the site we want to visit is available. So subsequently, somebody here, another user on the network, now want to access academy.ng. Okay, the lookup process starts locally. When it's not available, the system contacts the local DNS, and because this record is now available in the cache, it easily passes it to this user. So it's not necessary to contact the root, contact any of the .ng name server, and the resolution is done. So this is just basically how DNS query works. So we have various types of DNS query. We have iterative query. In iterative query, the request from the local DNS server, you can see, it will go to the root, it comes back to the local DNS server. So everything will come back from the local DNS server, and the local DNS server, we have to still make the request until it gets to the authoritative name server. But recursive, for recursive, you can see it has the local DNS server. From the local DNS server, it goes to the root. So the root helps to contact other name server until it gets to the authoritative and it comes back. So the main difference is for the recursive, it does that on behalf of the person making the request. Okay, so we've mentioned the other type of resource records we have, and there's a threat against DNS. Any good thing has its own bad part. So there are some vulnerabilities like DNS flooding, DNS hijacking, DNS spoofing, and DNS tunneling. So there is a mechanism in place to address some of these, and we have DNSSEC, and what DNSSEC does is it authenticates all these responses in a cryptographic manner. So anything that is coming, it will check for its validity before responses is being passed across or granted. So this is just an explanation of the hierarchy of trust in DNS. Okay. We have the WHOIS protocol, which is a database that contains registration details of domain names and IP addresses. It has its own benefit because it promotes transparency. It helps people to check availability of domain and other things. Now, let's look at domain name industry stakeholders. So the first is registry, and registry is the organization that manages the database of domain name under any specific TLD. Then it is responsible for maintaining the zone file. So one example of registry is the NiRA. We have the registrar, which is an accredited company or entity that acts as an intermediary between registry and registrants. We have the registrant, which is the end user or the customer who registered the domain name. Then we also have a reseller, which is an intermediary who sells the domain name and related services. So here are some features of the .ng registry: generation of the zone, the WHOIS server, the transfer, and quite a lot of things. Here are the zones we have in the .ng registry. Let's quickly look at registry models. Registry model, we have a structural model, which explain the roles of players. The first one here is vertical integration. So in vertical integration, we have the registry and registrars is the same entity, which means the same body who is the registrar is the registrant. In horizontal model, we have the registry and registrars as separate legal entities. Okay? We have the 2R model. In a 2R model, we have only registry and registrants. In 3R model, we have registry, we have registrar, and we have registrants. Okay? So based on operational model of the registry, we have a thick registry. In a thick registry, all the informations are centrally stored by the registry operator. In a thin registry, some basic domain name information like the name, the registrar, and name server is what is with the registry, and the registrar maintains contact details. We also have the shared registry system, and that one is CPP based, whereby accredited registrars all connect to a single registry system to manage domain names. We have the exclusive registry, whereby the registry is the sole registrars and deals directly with registrants. For hybrid registry, the registry both runs direct registration and allow other registrars. So here are some best practices for resellers. They are self-explanatory, and we have some DNS management tools like WHMCS module, propagation checkers, the DIG. So we have various regulatory body of the internet. First is IANA, and they provide global coordination of the route. We have 5 regional internet registries, which are responsible for assignment of IP addresses and autonomous system numbers. The one for the African and Indian Ocean region, which is the area we belong to, is Afrinic. So we have ARIN, RIPE, NCC, LACNIC, and APNIC for other areas. So let's look at this domain name ecosystem. And this ecosystem has a place for everyone. So you can see resellers here, registrars, registry operators, domain name industry. So this gives everybody the opportunity to participate in the ecosystem and lend their own voice towards making the internet safe and a better place for everybody. You can see ISOC, ICANN, the IGF. So it's an ecosystem that takes care of everybody. So I think that is the end of presentation, and there are some links here where we can visit and have more insights to the things we've discussed today. And the ecosystem is big. We are still going to definitely meet and discuss. So thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shehu, for that very insightful presentation. So, our facilitator for this second module is Mr. Tonka John.
Good afternoon, Jessica, and good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, welcome to this webinar. And I'd like to thank the first speaker. He has actually talked much on the DNS space. So the first speaker spoke about the DNS system and how it works. So we'll be looking at the entrepreneurship opportunity in the .ng domain name space. Now, he also tried to explain what a domain name is, being an identity for a business or for somebody who would like his visibility seen online. So I think I will be talking more of how do we make money from that and how do entrepreneurs leverage on that. I think that's the main reason why we're all here today. And once again, I would like to say welcome. Now, an overview of the .ng. The .ng is basically the identity for Nigeria on the internet. So anywhere you go on the internet and you see a domain name with the extension .ng, it basically tells you that this business or entity has to do with Nigeria. Now, for Nigerian businesses, the .ng helps your brand grow. And as an entrepreneur, you have two options to dive into the system. You could actually be a reseller or the owner of the business directly. So you could be someone selling to other people, or you could be someone that owns the business and would also want your identity seen. As the first speaker said, this program we're running through is to see how we rebrand the whole identity of Nigeria on the internet space. Because if you ask anyone, the general opinion of Nigerians on the internet space, they see us more for those few people who have done bad with the Nigerian name than for the good works we'll continue to do. So we're looking for entrepreneurs that would help facilitate or change the identity we have gotten on the internet using our brand, the .ng. Now, the market trend shows that people are actually using it. People are actually buying the idea of using the .ng. If you look at the data, which shows the market trend, you have new registrations of 22,000, you have renewals of over 18,000, and altogether we have something of about 40,000 domains just for the first quarter. These are not the numbers for the domains registered by NiRA as the registry for the .ng. You know, when we're talking about .ng, we're talking about the top TLD for domain in Nigeria, meaning that it's inclusive of the .com.ng, .name.ng, .org.ng, .gov.ng, the military aspect of .ng. So anything that has to do with .ng is what we are talking about. And from my screen, if you could see it, what you're having is that the .com.ng is what most people, or what appeals most to people, and that is what most people like going for. Now let's talk about key drivers of demand for the .ng. For an entrepreneur, any market you are going into, you must have a target audience. That means that you must have people you are selling to. You must know who your target audience is. Now, I'm listing out a few people who may be your target audience for that .ng domain extension. I'm listing out a few people who can be your target audience for that domain name extension, being the .ng. We have small and medium scale enterprises. We have the e-commerce system. Now you know everybody is selling one thing online or doing a business that has to do with the internet. You have local brands who do not know about, or not that they do not know, but they do not have a valid reason to come into the .ng space. You can also have connections to government agencies who have not seen the need to have those brand names. Now, why we're having this session is that some of us on this platform right now have those connections. We have those accessibilities. We have those relationships that could help propagate. But because we have not known that an opportunity like this lies there for us, we have not been able to tap into its full potential and now gain from that. Now, if you look at what I have on my screen, the small scale, the e-commerce, the local brand value, not really the government initiative, you would be like, okay, but all this can also be done with social media. That is talking about Instagram, maybe Facebook page, even your WhatsApp now does things like this. Yes, to some extent, but there are also limitations when you are using social media, and that is why the website or the domain name is more attractive to clients. What do I mean? For your social media, let's look at SMEs, e-commerce, and local branding. When you use your social media, you don't have full control over what you can post and what you can upload. Most times there are limitations because it's a social media platform. So those platforms dictate or give you a boundary to which you can work. And that's why the social media platforms really don't work. Also, their SEOs, their algorithms run, and you have difficulty propelling your business for the .ng to the front of the line when someone is searching, depending on the SEO you use. Most times you find out that if what you consume as a consumer is propelled more to your screen on those social media handles or those social media platforms you use. So you being an entrepreneur, you can't really sell those ideas to your clients, or it would them having a website is much more better than them using those social media handles or those social media platforms. I'm just trying to give the entrepreneurs we have like some ideas when trying to sell their .ng domains to clients. I don't know. Are you still with me? Can somebody please confirm?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the websites, you have unlimited customization. You could change colors, you could change branding, you could change the way and feel your website or your domain would look. Then also your social media platforms, I don't think they allow you sell directly to clients. That means that you can hardly integrate payment gateways. Now, for SME businesses, for e-commerce businesses, for local brands that have the tendency of scaling up and also looking at long-term plans, social media platforms would not give them that. So it is your domain space now that now lets you into that market and say, okay, we can actually do this for you. And because you are using the .ng, it gives you recognition and puts you in the Nigerian map. Also, the .ng, for people who know how the SEO works, when you go to platforms like Google and you search for businesses and you are within a certain region, it pulls out businesses within that region. So if I'm in Nigeria and I'm searching for a certain or a particular type of business, if we have Nigerian websites who offer those businesses and their SEO or their search engine optimization are up to date and they don't have bad reviews, you find out that Google will pull that. So it makes your visibility come out more if you are using the .ng domain. So these are places you could leverage on as an entrepreneur to sell to your clients. Now, entrepreneurship opportunities. You know, for .ng or for .ng extensions, the minimum you could sell is the minimum period a domain name can be registered is for 1 year. So if I'm getting a client to buy a domain name at, let's say, a cost of X, and that client is not going to pay me for the next 1 year, as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, what other services can I render to make sure that, okay, I still stay in the business? Now, if, for example, the .ng domain is sold at, what should I say now? Let me say 1 NiRA. It's an example. Okay, 1,000. It's an example. Then I, as a business owner, that's from the registry, sold at 1,000. I now say, okay, I want to sell my domain at 1,500. Does that mean that I make 500 for the whole year? If I don't have a large client base, that money would not sustain me. So what other services can I now add to my domain that would now propagate the .ng brand and also push revenue for me? Because as an entrepreneur, all you are looking for is how to generate revenue. Now, listed here are just some few services you could add to the domain space and services you could render to your customers or consumers. You could establish a domain reselling business. Now, when establishing a domain reselling business, as we started, who are your targeted audience? Presently, we have, what do you call it? CAC, that registers businesses in Nigeria. If I have a connect to say, I have a friend in CAC or who also registers business, I as an entrepreneur could look to that friend and say, okay, please, oh, when these businesses come to register, would you also talk to them if they would like a domain name? That is an entry point. Once you have that domain name, could I please develop websites for them? Could I also give them advisory services and tell them, okay, how to operate those websites that they are able to get the best out of them? Because one thing we notice about business is that when your business grows, when your customer's business grows, your business also grows. Your customer is able to come back to you. So these are opportunities you always get with the .ng, that identity. Whenever we see your business online, xyz.ng, we can tell that, okay, this is a Nigerian business. We have people who export Nigerian products. Why are those people not using domain names? Why are those people not having websites? Why are those people not doing X, Y, and Z? These are ideas that as entrepreneurs, you can tap into and you get something good and you're able to get value for the information you are bringing to those businesses. Now, let's look at case studies. Haystack was initially .com.ng before they were bought up. Now they are bought up and they are using .com. Because of they were using .com.ng, it would make, before their purchase, if the person who purchased it was no longer in Nigeria or the business was not solely owned by a Nigerian company, it would not need the name or it would not need the extension .ng. Now, because they started in Nigeria, they started with .com.ng, they could as well start with .ng. It gives them that recognition. Anywhere we go today, we'll say, okay, Paystack actually started from Nigeria. If they got a domain name and they started with .com, we could actually argue, yes, the developers were just Nigerians, but it was never a Nigerian company. This .ng you are seeing behind their name now gives them that identity that, okay, .ng. We have another there, an e-commerce website, furniturekingdom.ng. We have a web hosting company that actually grew itself, that has done over 20 years in the industry. Now, these are examples of companies that have future plans. With Instagram, with Facebook, you can hardly do this. Why? Because those accounts can easily be hacked. We're not saying that hosting or domain names don't get hacked, but it's not as much as you'd have on those social platforms. So these are also reasons why you could educate your clients that using the domain name would be of more beneficiary to them. Now, let's look at the challenges you may have. Most people, as we know, prefer .com. They'll tell you .com is easy. How do you sell to them? You sell to them, telling them about their identity and what it means and what it stands for and how it could be better for their brand. Regulatory uncertainties and evolving domain pricing structure. Now we know that because our NiRA value may not be stable, the domain price may still kick up from time to time. Another thing is that the basic education we have is wrong using the .ng or using the .ng extension. Now, how do we solve this problem. We solve it by educating ourselves as the entrepreneurs. You can't sell or market what you don't know. So you as the entrepreneur, once you have the market, you'll be able, once you have the knowledge, you'll be able to market whatever brand you are selling. You build good relationships with your clients. As an entrepreneur, it's not always advisable that the relationship end at the point of sale. You follow up, you build the business, you help your clients see that, okay, my business is also thriving, and I'm also seeing that you are able to do greater things with your business. You also contribute. Now, NiRA, who organized this webinar, is also a body. So hello?
I'm not eating.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption. Now, NiRA, who is a player in this field, are also open to suggestions, because you as an entrepreneur, you are on the field. You are able to engage with clients, so you know what is affecting your business and also what is affecting their business. So they are also ready for feedbacks to help grow the brand. Now, creating local contents to demonstrate that the .ng can go places and it has value and your customers can use it. That's also a way of growing your business as an entrepreneur and also seeing that your client's business grows in turn. So in conclusion, I would like to say that .ng, now we know that Nigeria has the biggest economy so far in Africa. So if as an entrepreneur, you use the .ng to break into the digital space, either as a reseller or as a business, you find that you are going to have one of the biggest market field or playing space for you to come in and make money. All you need to do is position yourself, get the right information, target the right audience, and see how we grow the brand together.
I hope we're learning a lot. I hope we are gaining all the insights that we need to become strategic resellers. So the next person you're going to be hearing his voice is Mr. Emmanuel Simon. Pay attention and get all you can. We brought the best in the industry for you.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, Jessica, and quick acknowledgement to all those who have actually presented before me. Quite insightful presentation and quite a lot to pick up. Special shout out to John Toka. Your presentation was quite interesting. And also to Mr. Nu, if I got the name right, from NiRA. That was quite a very good background. And I hope everyone on the team is actually enjoying this section and getting so much insight as much as I'm also doing here. So I will be taking the third model, which is NiRA, Reseller Partnership Strategy and Business Management Model. Let's just get right into it quickly. Okay, so in this third model about reseller partnership and strategy, we'll build on your DNS knowledge and explore how to monetize the skills in the marketplace. So from all the existing knowledge you've gained and insights, so we're going to build on this knowledge and you'll discover how to create valuable offering around domain name registration and management, web hosting services, email hosting solution, and every other value-added services. So the goal is by the end of this module, you have a clear roadmap to establish your domain reseller business and provide essential digital infrastructure to Nigerian businesses. So to summarize what I've just gone through, basically at this point in time in the training, so we'll try to monetize. We'll be working with you on how to monetize all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the technical knowledge you can actually acquiring from this training. How do you monetize that? How do you go around it? Next slide. So a quick statistics. So basically, in the year 2024, the global web hosting web hosting rather, and domain industry was valued at about $126 billion. That was what it was valued at, and there's an estimated value that by 2032, which is around 7 years from now, the industry is going to be worth about $527 billion, according to Fortune Business Insight. And that is for the combined industry of both web hosting and domains, which includes servers and all. Why for the DNS industry alone? That's for domains, the global TLD. So it was currently valued at about $9.8 billion in 2024, and with a projected value of about $15.6 billion in 2032, which is in the next 7 years. Why do I have all these statistics here? Is to ensure that we are not beating or we're not trying to flog a dead horse. That's why we have all of this, because in technology, we need to be cognizant of there are dying technologies and there are futuristic technologies with the future being certain of growth. They are still with a lot of growth potentials. So the DNS industry and the web hosting industry are one of those key industries with significant growth prospects in the next 7 years or more, with at least the value of the industry tripling or even quadrupling by 4x within the next 7 years. And what are the key growth drivers? What are those things that ensures that this growth are going to be consistent? So first thing, we are looking at digital transformation. I believe this is like the main thing on the front burner. Enterprise worldwide are rapidly adopting digital first strategies requiring robust domain and hosting infrastructure. So there's literally no significant business today that doesn't have some form of web and online presence. Every business today, every significant presence today has a serious form of web presence, hosting infrastructure of a kind, even if it's just hosting their website, if it's hosting their internal ERP system, if it's hosting their management system. But essentially, every business today, major business, has some form of online presence. So digital transformation, and this requires, and I believe from Mr. Sheo, I probably need to get that name correctly, from his initial, he talked about how the internet works. And when we understand that to the foundation, we understand that the domain is actually part of the core foundation of the internet. That is how we're able to access one or two, or how we're able to navigate our way around the internet. So the domain industry is one with significant growth potentials. Then we talk about mobile and internet penetration. I believe that is a no-brainer. We don't need to dwell deep on that, because we see that yes, there's great internet penetration, mobile adoption, the price of mobile phones are getting lower. You have it more and more. Previously, I believe 10 years ago, you hardly could go to primary, secondary school where students had mobile devices or tablet. But today, even at kindergarten level, it's now a norm to have some form of electronic devices within the classroom, your local elders, everywhere. Everyone now has exposure to some form of mobile devices. And also, cost of data and internet connectivity is actually going lower, while the quality is actually growing higher. Then digital market evolution. So that also related to digital transformation also. So bringing it home now, the Nigeria digital landscape. So as of January 2025, it is estimated that the .ng registry currently holds about 234 .ng domains. So it is estimated that we have about 234,000 .ng, and it is also we also have approximately 1 million active websites in Nigeria. And of those 1 million active websites in Nigeria today, it is also estimated that we have roughly 350,000 websites using the .ng ccTLD. And To bring that home, we have an average of 160 million internet users in Nigeria. So if we're having 160 million, 60 million internet users in Nigeria, and we're having just about a million websites, so the growth potential within the internet space, within the web hosting and DNS space is quite significant. And if I could just take a bit of a detour here, when we talk about internet space or domain registration or website, it doesn't have to be just businesses alone. Yes, businesses are the focal point, but it doesn't have to be businesses alone. So you can have some form of personal branding. So personal website, personal blogs, all of this. And we have 160 million internet users and just approximately 1 million active websites in Nigeria. And if we was to look at it, it is actually possible. It is actually possible to raise these numbers to over 60 million websites in Nigeria, and that will significantly increase the numbers of .ng domains. So understanding the domain reseller business model. What is basically a domain reseller? A domain reseller is basically someone that buys domain or buys hosting and resell to others. That's the whole idea of domain reseller, the business model. So you buy domain names and hosting packages in bulk from providers. You brand and package your own brand, then you resell to others at a markup price. It is that straightforward and it is that easy. There is no so much complexity to it. That is what a domain reseller is essentially is. So the domain reseller business model, that is what you aim to achieve. Buy in bulk, brand and package, and you resell. So what are the key benefits of the reseller model? You have low startup costs. So minimal initial investment is required. So you don't not need so much investment capital. So it is one of those business that as a student, as a fresh graduate, someone who is a serving corps member, or whatever category of stage you are in life, it's a form of business that you can actually just get the required technical skills and you can actually get involved in. Profitability, you earn by selling services with strategic markup. Then brand building, you create your own business identity. Then additional revenue, you can offer complementary services like website design and SEO. Then recurring income, domain renewals and hosting provide ongoing revenue. Then local advantage, you can provide Nigerian specific support and solution. So building your reseller strategy. One of the most important things you have to understand about business, and this is generic to all form of business, is identify your market. So during one of, pardon me, let me go this route. During one of the NiRA meetings we had, and when we were discussing about the growth of domain adoption in Nigeria, someone raised some underserved industries in Nigeria or group of people or market segments in Nigeria that we could actually harness. So he gave a specific example of we had the .name.ng CCTLD, right? That's the third level CCTLD in Nigeria. And it is possible to have every individual or every politician or every public personality to market that .name.ng brand. So for one, Emmanuel Simeon, there's nothing bad if I have Emmanuel Simeon .name.ng, or I could use one of my name, Simeon.name.ng. Now, that is a particular market segment where you begin to target specific individuals. So this time, individuals, public figures, you just want to pick the .name.ng third level CCTLD and market to individuals and build personal portfolio web pages for them. They buy the domain name. You, as a complementary service, you provide the hosting service or website design, and they are required to buy hosting. And they buy hosting from you or from any of your partner reseller in which you are buying from. So identify a niche market of that nature, because when you look at web hosting industry in Nigeria, you have so much names. You have big names, you have mid names, you have so many competing for your attention. But a differentiation is actually what's going to get you to succeed in the market. So identifying the market segment you want. Do you want to go for educational institutions? So we have the .school.ng, that .sch.ng, which is third level CCTLD for Nigeria also. That is for educational institutions below university, tertiary. So your secondary school, your primary schools, all can have .school.ng. But today we see most of them using either .ng or using .org.ng. But ideally, they are supposed to be on the .school.ng, because this is also going to help in terms of search engine optimization for their website, because just from your domain name already, you're already classified as an educational institution. So your domain name alone already helps with search engine optimization without you doing anything extraordinary. So within, just for anyone looking, just look around. Look around the numbers of schools you have in Nigeria. We are not even talking of tertiary institutions this time, just primary and secondary institutions. Look around. So there's still a whole lot, man. Even if you're not even designing the website for them, all what you're selling for them this time is okay, you already have an existing website. Let me sell the correct TLD your school is supposed to be operating in, which is the school.ng, and that becomes your niche market as a domain reseller. And you partner with any of us to achieve this. I believe I've actually dwelled so much on identify your market, because that is actually core of the business model. Then build relationship, develop strong connection with suppliers. So you need to develop, because with like NiRA, but this is actually wrong, because NiRA actually operates the 3R model, which is the registry, registrar, and registrant. So as a domain reseller, you might just not be able to actually buy directly from NiRA. You might need to buy from a registrar. And you have some of us on the call here today as your facilitators. So you can buy from any of our companies here. I work with varpex.com. I manage managecloud.ng. I also have managehosting.com also. These are all brands that support .ng domain. And you could build a good one working relationship. We'll get to there, how you could build affiliate link, how you can obtain affiliate link, and how you can actually sell service and reseller solution through all of this. Then deepen product knowledge, which is the next most important. Aside your identifying the market, you need product knowledge, because you are as good and you can sell as much of what you know about. So you need to understand domain and its all associated technologies, hosting and everything around it. So you need good domain knowledge for you to actually actualize this. And I guess, okay, I believe that will be the end of my non-practical slide. So we'll go into the practical slide. But before I jump into that, do we have any question? Do we have question, please? Okay, can you still see my screen, please? If you can see my screen, could please just comment on the chat.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to walk us through some of the services in which we could actually this is going to be pretty practical, but okay, so I'll start first with this. So this is varpex.com.ng. It's actually a global hosting brand to which I am part of. I work as a product manager for them on the group level, and also manage the local operations in Nigeria. So without wasting our time, we'll just scroll down to the affiliate section. So we have a particular section at the bottom of our page where we have the affiliate program. So as a domain reseller, and you can see our option here, you can earn up to $200 per sale. How does it work essentially? This is our number system. So basically, as an affiliate, you join our affiliate program, you registered on vapex.com/affiliates. And as soon as you're here, you hear it works, you get affiliate link to which you're able to sell our services, rather than sell .ng domain and hosting package through us. Vapex actually is in Nigeria. It's more of a local brand with international backing. International backing, but it's actually a local brand in Nigeria, and we are part of NiRA registrars. And this is our referral program work for web hosting standard. So basically, this how it works. On a tier one, when you're a tier one reseller, what you need per month is basically just 0 to 5 sales. So using your referral link. And so for web hosting standard, so if you're able to get 0 to 5 sales for web hosting, you get about $40 paid to you monthly. And then for reseller managed servers, you get about $60 paid to you monthly. And for managed servers, you get about $100 when you're able to achieve. This is on a monthly basis. So you need to get 0 to 5 sales per month. Then if you reaching around 6 to 10 sales per month, so what you begins to earn goes higher. You begin to make $50 to $80 to $120 per month. Then when you make about 11 to 20 referral sales, you get $60, $100, and $150. Then when on the tier 4, when you make above 20 sales per month, you get $80 for web hosting and $120 for reseller package and $200 monthly for managed servers. So it's a very straightforward system. I believe I wouldn't dwell so much on affiliate marketing because that would be a form of I shouldn't just go there generally, but it's all part of the reseller program. So just with as NiRA talked, I explained about the NiRA model, the 3R or 4R model, depending on how you address it. So the 4R model will be the registry, the registrar, registrant, reseller, and registrant. So with that, so in our context here, I believe it's better we dwell more on the 4R model. So the registry is NiRA. The registrar is either you're working with Vapex, you're working with Managed Cloud, either of our services. Then the reseller, it's going to be you. Then your registrant, it's going to be the people buying services through you. So this is a very detailed layout for that. Now we have Managed Cloud. Also, Managed Cloud is a unique brand of its own. It's actually a non-technical hosting solution. So this was born out of what we will call it a niche market, because in today domain hosting space, domain hosting and web hosting rather and domains is some form of technical, it still needs some form of technical know-how. And with the proliferation of the internet and access to things much more easily, you have non-technical users buying domain themselves and trying to set up website on their own. And that in times had always led to frustrating experience with most non-technical users when they try to venture into the space on their own. So we at Managed Cloud, we try to take away all the complexities of domain management, hosting, web hosting, servers, email. So basically, we take all of that away from you. So buying any services at managedcloud.ng, it's a managed so all our services are managed. So when you buy your domain from us, we help you manage your domain. You want to whatever operation you want to do, you want to change your DNS setting, to update your name servers. Basically, it's a non-technical hosting solution. So as the banner says right in front of us, is a non-technical hosting solution. And yes, we also offer partnership and affiliate program also if you want to join as part of our resellers. So basically, you simply create an account with us and send a message, and then you get your own direct affiliate link, and all our pricings are quite transparent. There are no hidden charges. All pricing are visible on the website for every service you've seen, and it is what you see, it's what you get. You're not getting anything out of it. No additional, except for VAT, of course. All prices are VAT exclusive. And so we look forward to working with you guys more on your domain reseller journey. So thank you very much. That will be all from me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. So we'll just take the questions that are. We have one question on the chat box. It says, can a company also become an affiliate? If yes, are the commissions on the reseller program for entrepreneurs the same? I guess this question is for you, Mr. Emmanuel.
Yes. A company can also become an affiliate. Yes, that's very welcome. And yes, you asked if the um coming in the commission on reseller program for entrepreneurs the same. Yes, but there are special consideration. There are special consideration because I don't know how to use this word, but I will just try to, because they say all animals are not all equal. So for that, so yes, if you feel your proposition or the affiliate proposition has much value than that, you feel free to reach out to us and we can actually negotiate a special rate for you. So it's not just yes, what you see on the website is what you get generically, but we are open to further discussion and affiliate management and special arrangement for you. So because if someone is joining the affiliate program and his target for the month is okay, I want to do just between 11 to 10 or 11 to 15, or I just want to get 5 sales per month. Yes, and you have someone with so much influence and like, do you know what? I want to join a program and I'm confident of myself that I could bring in 100 new sales. Definitely you have the bargaining power or bargaining advantage to say, okay, I'm going to be committing 100 new sales per month, but I want a particular rate, or I would rather want my commission at this particular price point, and then we are all open. It's business, so it's a win-win for everyone at the end of the day. So it's not just saying, but what you see on the website is what it is for a generic and for the public. But when you have special offer or you feel you deserve more, you can do more, then please reach out. I hope I was able to answer that question, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel. Cindy, I don't know if your question was answered. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel, again for that wonderful presentation. I hope we are taking our notes. I hope we are getting more understanding on what the reseller journey is all about. So we're going to be taking the next session. The next voice you'll be hearing is the voice of Faith Olariwaju, as she takes us on the fourth module, DNS Marketing Magic. Over to you, Faith.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here. Just a minute, let me share my screen. Please don't mind my presentation, please. It's just a bit of brush work or something like that. So, all right. So I'm just gonna start with. So I'm gonna be talking about DNS magic, basically, right? And I'm going to talk about DNS basics and all that, right? So let me get right into it. So what is DNS? In my own with my own understanding, right? So DNS is like is the internet's phone book. When someone types a domain name like yourbusiness.ng, or let's say faith.ng or jessica.ng, right? So basically, DNS helps you to translate that domain into an IP address, right? So it's easy for you to basically trace a domain name to where its content is hosted, right? When you have the DNS, right? So when you purchase a domain name at first, a domain name would not load itself. It won't work. You won't be able to use it when you buy, let's say you come to like Group 4 or West Africa and you say, okay, I want to purchase a domain name, let's say yourbusiness.ng or yourbusiness.com.ng, right? So when you pay for it, once you have the domain name, if you do not purchase a hosting account or connect that domain to a server or a hosting account or any server whatsoever with using the name servers, right? The domain name is as useless as anything, right? Even if you want to use the domain name just for email services like Gsuite, MS365, or any email any email platform, right? For your business or for personal use, right? If you get the domain, you still need to connect the domain using DNS records, right? So that helps you to like connect your domain and to where your content is or your email is, right? So why does DNS matter to sellers? So it's the core of the internet. So like I said the other time, that without DNS, domains are useless, right? So resellers are selling the address, part of an online presence, right? So like I was trying to explain the other time, right, that when you get your domain, you need to connect it to somewhere. So your domain, your DNS works as a connector of your domain to your hosting server, right? And it also acts as a pointer. So everybody knows that you are online, because if you get the domain, like I said, without getting the server, domain is useless, right? So if you connect it to a DNS server or any server whatsoever, right, using the name server's record, right, then people can search for your business using the domain name, which is your own online address, right? So DNS basically gives you your online presence. So you can buy it. So just buying a domain, or just buying even the hosting, just buying hosting and domain without connecting both of them together, right? It's like you're just giving the registrars or the hosting providers, you're just giving them free money. So you need to connect both together. You can get a domain name and hosting from the same company, or you can get it from different companies, right? And that's one of the beautiful things that Genesis has given us, right? You can have your services across the globe. You can have your email services with a company or from a company in Canada. You can have your hosting with a company in US. You can buy your .ng domain here and have your hosting purchased from AWS. If you know you do not have issues with latency, or you do not have issues with data going out of the country, right? So you can get your hosting, or you buy your server with Google and all different. We have different providers, right? You can easily connect your domain to any services that can work with a domain, right, for online presence, basically. Just like, I don't know if people have heard, if anybody has heard about Blogspot. I'm sure you guys must have heard about Blogspot. Companies like Vercel, Netlify, all those all those app creating companies that you can just create a small app, right, for maybe your API service or anything, basically, right? So before you do not ask you, like, okay, you need to pay, you need to upgrade to premium, if you want to enjoy premium or better services, right? So buying your domain and your DNS, basically, rather, helps you to, like, it gives you access to various services, basically. Depends on what you want to do, right? And that's even for the technical, for the technical guys. But for the non-technical people, right, you just know that once you have your domain, you must get you must connect the domain to a server using the DNS, basically. So there's the added value. You need to understand that DNS allows you to offer more than just a domain name. You can offer solutions, right? So if you, as a reseller, right, if you decide that, okay, you just want to sell only domains, right, you may not get as much as you want, right? But then it's always good, right? If you feel like, okay, you just want to stay with domains, right? But then you can get more money if you go to other solutions, like I said, the hosting, like email hosting. You can decide to be a reseller for Google Workspace. You can be a reseller for MS365. You can be a reseller for Zoho. What other email? I think those are the most common, right, in Nigeria, right? Zoho, Microsoft, Google, right? You can even get from, I know there's iRedMail and all those guys there out there, right? That they even offer like free email servers and all that, but you just have to get your server. But regardless, you still have to point to DNS, right? So you can, if you have an understanding of how this DNS works, right, it's easy for you to, like, upgrade your reselling market, right? And say, okay, I'm also offering you guys hosting. I'm also offering you SSL. I'm also offering you anything basically, right? So BNS basics for reseller, right? The records, right? I was talking about connecting the domain to a server or email server or anything, right? So any solution, right? So we have the A records, right? So this A records is what points a domain to an IP address. So that is where your website server is, right? Now, the marketing magic here is that your website only goes live when the domain points to an IP address, basically, right? Even if you use a CNAME records, right? At the back end, it's still an IP address that is still resolving to, right? So the A records, it's basically IP address. Doesn't come in any different form, right? The 4 bits, right? IP address. So this is when you once you point your domain to an A record of a server, right? Anybody can go to your Chrome browser or their Opera Mini browser or any browser, whatever, and just search for your domain name. And then they can view the content that you have uploaded into your hosting account. Even if you're pointing your domain to Vercel, right? You have like the app you built on Vercel or the app you built on Netlify or the app or what the blog page that you built on Blogspot, right? You still have to connect, when you connect your domain to their IP address, right? Then you can easily view those content. But if you just buy your domain and create your blog page on, let's say, Blogspot, yeah, if you do not update your DNS, the domain DNS, right, with the A records, with the IP address to point, with the IP address rather, to point your domain to Google, right, you won't be able to view your content, basically. Then we have the CNAME records, right? It's this one creates an alias from one domain to another, right? So if you have yourdomainname.ng then you point it to your domain.ng. So now there are people who would like to have www on their domain name, right? If you do not have either your A record or your CNAME added to your domain name on the DNS record, right? Where you had your DNS records. If you do not create www.yourdomainname.ng, I mean, please note the www, right? If you do not create that www. If everybody goes to search for your domain, the only thing they can only use to reach you or anything the only result they get is your domain name.ng, right? And there are some people that if they do not see www, they'll start frowning on, okay, something might be going on or something like that. They'll think it's suspicious, basically. So you need the www, right? So now there's some services or DNS services, depends on the provider, basically, right? That would not allow you to use A records for your www, right? So they would say you should use a CNAME record to point your www, right? So now for every platform you have your hosting or you have your hosting basically, or you have your content, like I mentioned earlier, right? They would always give you an IP address and a CNAME records, right? Now, another good thing about the www, right, is that in case www and the CNAME records is that in case if there's an issue with the IP address and maybe there's something like there's a technical issue on the back end, right? And the IP address is not resolving properly, right? You won't be able to use your domain name.ng. So nobody will be able to reach your domain name.ng. However, if the CNAME server is up and running, right? If they now use www.your-domain-name, right, to search for your website, they will be able to access your website. Now, in most cases, what people do is that they do a redirect from, if I load your domain.ng, it should go to www.yourdomain.ng, right? So that redirect means that even if your domain.ng is down or is up, please go to www.yourdomain.ng, right? So that's why there's always the CNAME and the A record. So the CNAME records, most times, right, creates like, it's almost like a backup for the A records. Like, that's like the hidden benefit of the CNAME records, right? It's almost like the backup plan for the A records. So, like I said, ensures that both your domain, www works seamlessly. So it's easy for you to like set up your blog your domain.ng or your shop.yourdomain.ng to point to specific platforms. Like I mentioned, Versal and Netify and all that. You can create a subdomain and say that your domain name. That's what you can say, that you want to have a different content on your domain, www.yourdomain.ng, right? And then you want to have a subdomain that is shop.yourdomain.ng, right? So let me paint a scenario here, so you guys will be able to understand very well. So if you have, I have faith.com.ng and I sell books, right, on the website. But on the first page, right, I have like I'm trying to attract you guys to what I sell. Like I have a blog or something, or content, basically, right? But the shop, where you shop, right, is on another page. Now, I can decide that, okay, the content on the landing page, which is when you open your website, whatever you see, that page is the landing page, right? That's your home page, right? And then what is there, right? I can say that it should be on Go54 server. So go on Go54 server, you have the hosting account for your domain, that's faith.com.ng. Now I can now say that, okay, for anybody who wants to place an order for my books, and I'm saying, so on the homepage I have, you need to build up your faith, you need to build up your spiritual life, whatever, Okay, if you want to do that, can you click on buy or buy now, something like that. I can advertise those books on the front page, right? And say, you want to buy, just click buy now. Now, if I click on buy now can take me to shop.faith.com.ng or faith.ng, right? Now, I can say that the first page, which is the home page, should be on Go54 server, and shop.faith.ng should be on Versal, right? So it means that I am using my my domain name, my faith.ng, right, as the front page, and I'm using the subdomain that I've created. Now, if I'm going to now create this subdomain on Versal, I'll use a CNAME record to point my the shop.faith.ng to Versal server, right? I'll use the CNAME to point it, right? So you can decide to have another page again. Let's say that's the third page, and say, okay, for checkouts, I want to use another server, basically, for checkouts. So you can do that, right? Basically. Then let me move forward to the MX record. This records, right? I mentioned you can connect your domain to email earlier, right? So this records direct your email for a domain to a specific email server. if you want to use G Suite for your emails, right? G Suite will give you an MX record to say that when anybody sent you an email, that's where your email is going to go to, right? And I can also say that I want to send my mail from the same server. I will explain that when I get to TX records. So let me focus on MX, right? So MX records basically says that domain name, bro. So DNS is telling this domain name, this MX record, right, is a DNS record, right? So it's telling domain name, bro, anybody that sends an email to you should go to whatever the MS record is server, the MS record is pointing to, right? So let me use G Suite, right? Google Workspace. So if I have set Google Workspace as my MX records, right? So I'm basically telling the DNS is telling the domain name, issuing a command to the domain that anyone that sent you an email should go to Google. Now, so when you get to Google, you tell them the email you want to use, blah, 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 and then you set it up on maybe on your Gmail app, on your mail app, on your laptop or on your phone, whatever device you want to use, right? You can set it up. So when anybody sends email to you, they go there, right? For professionalism, you can have professional email addresses. Like I mentioned, the G Suite, you can use your domain name to create your, in fact, basically for G Suite, you would have a business name, right? So the domain name is very important as well. So you have to get a domain before you even say you want to buy G Suite, right? And then they would give you the DNS now. So it's just like to build, basically to build business trust, right? I mean, I know some of us used to look for jobs on LinkedIn. So, but if you go to LinkedIn and then you try to, and you see somebody saying that, would you like to, or would you love to do a remote work? Everybody wants to do remote work anyways. And then you go there and you can see what the person said, kindly send your CV to so email. Somebody, maybe let's say Go54 is looking as Go54 as vacancy for so role. Kindly, if you are interested, kindly send your CV to, and then the person decided to put, let's say, faith@gmail.com. That's suspicious, because if you are telling me that Go54 is hiring, right, the mail I should send my CV to should be a Go54 email, which should be faith@go54.com, not any other email, not personal email. So basically it's this email or this email services gives you like professional look, right? Basically, right, on your website, nobody would want to see a Gmail domain, right? So it has to be your domain name. And then of course, with the way hosting providers have also upgraded, right? If you have a hosting provider that uses cPanel, maybe direct admin, you can set up an email address with your domain name as well. So you basically don't have to buy a G Suite. So at the same time, even if you are buying G Suite, you are using your cPanel, your hosting account webmail to create your web email, you still have to point your domain to the server using the MX records. So the DNS helps you to be flexible with your email options, basically. Then we have the TXT records, right? So this stops arbitrary tests often used for verification or security, right? So now this TXT records, right? It helps to say that it's also for email, basically, right? Now, when you're sending an email from faith@go54.com, that's an email. And I'm sending email to faith@gmail.com, right? Now, Gmail would want to verify that the email is coming from the correct address and coming from a valid server, a server without maybe a blacklist, right? So the TXT is what the receiving server, which is gmail.com, would use to like check to be sure that okay, everything is fine, okay, it's not listed on SBL, nobody has complained that this thing is malicious, this email is malicious, nobody has all those security and verification and all that. So the email security, the SPF, the DKIM, the DMARC. So this one's like I was saying that it checks all these records. So the records that the receiving email server checks are the SPF, right, and the DKIM and the DMARC, right? So the receiving server checks for these records as okay, you have SPF, okay, you have DMARC, you have DKIM, oh, you have DMARC, right? Then I can receive your email. So in cases whereby if you have noticed that you sent an email to somebody and then you are seeing a question mark, or somebody sent you an email on Google, on your Gmail, your normal Gmail, and you are seeing a question mark, right? It means that it's suspicious, but then Google has been able to pass one of these records, the DKIM and DMARC. If you can't pass the SPF, you see the question mark, right? In cases whereby it passes the SPF, but it doesn't pass the DKIM or DMARC, it goes to spam. And there are some cases that it's because everything has a score actually. So let's say maybe spam score 1 to 10 or something like that. So every email service or every email server have their own spam score, right? To say that okay, if it gets to like 11, threshold of 11, it's not even come to even spam, don't even come anywhere. Just send it bounce back. That's why sometimes you send email to Gmail, sometimes you get some weird email. Maybe you have been blocked from sending something to somebody, or your email cannot be delivered because of what they notice or something, maybe because of spam score or something, or they cannot verify your email or your email server, basically, right? So so I'm just gonna go ahead with the real world scenarios for the sellers, right? So there's a scenario of a new business launch, right? If you buy a domain name newbusiness.ng or faithnewbusiness.ng, right? So a reseller, as a reseller, right? You sell a domain name, you can sell a hosting account, you can sell an email hosting as well, and you can sell email security, basically. Now, for the hosting account, you use the A record, basically. For the email hosting, you use the MS record. And for the email security, you use the TXT records, right? So there's someone will be like, okay, although you can get all this, the A records, MS records, and TXT from just one server, and you can decide to a client to the reseller can decide that okay, let me spread all my my solutions or my online solutions, right, across different providers, because sometimes we do it because of backup, like as well, right? You have to be able to explain to them, oh, so because the client says that if, like I said, you can get the same thing, all these services from just one hosting provider, and you really want to sell. So let's say that the margin, is it the margin? Yeah, that the margin. There's something I want to use there. Is it profit? Sorry, profit margin, right? Between your hosting account, if you sell it, is lesser to the profit margin if on G Suite. For example, let's say that if you sell a G Suite, you earn your profit margin will be like 10K, for example. And then if you sell a hosting account, your profit margin is just 5K. And then you're like, okay, so that means you have to upsell more G Suites, right? You can still upsell your hosting too, but you know that this one has more profit, right? So if you are upselling your email hosting, somebody saying, so, but I can get it on the same provider. You'll be like, yes, my chief, yes, you can get it on the same provider. However, but then You see, because of backup, because one day now, your hosting provider might be having technical issue. It means that if all your records are pointing to just one server, right, which is your email, your website content, all your content whatsoever in this life, they're all pointing to one hosting provider, right? It means that the day they will have technical issue on their server, everything will be down. Just imagine if you're unable to fix the issue in 24 hours. What's gonna go on? What are you gonna do? It means your website will be down for 24 hours. Especially if the hosting provider, of course, nobody would even say that they will be down for 24 hours because they have to go out of business. That's what it means. But then, just in case, let's say, worst case scenario, 6 hours, right? It could happen, right? And then, so that means your business will be down for 6 hours. You lose a lot of money on your website. So what do you now do? Because if your website is down and you can still receive emails, you can still be making your money because, or if your email platform, your payment platform, people who are paying your money, at least people who have gotten papers for renewal yesterday, they can still pay. And let them pay now. If their expiration is today and they got an invoice maybe yesterday or last week, right? They got a reminder or notification that they should pay, that is going to expire tomorrow. They would have made, okay, and some people would want to pay today. If your email or your payment platform, if your email is working, and they'll be like, oh, we are unable to make payment on your website. We can't access your website, but they're able to send you an email. Right? It's because that email is working. That's why they can send you an email. Right? In cases like that, it means your email is not hosted with your provider. So that's where you can upsell G Suite and say, okay, you can use that one to, explain to them and say, if you buy this, anything can happen. If everything goes down, what will now happen? For 6 hours, you want to go offline. If you even go offline now, people can send you an email and say, okay, you want to make payments. Oh, you respond to the email. You know what? Our website, our provider, they're having issues right now. But you can pay to our another, maybe alternative bank, right? You have a GTB or maybe all this money point, I don't know. You just send them the account number. It means you're still earning money, even when the website is a bit down. Although you may not be making what you're supposed to be making at that time, but you're not losing at the same time, right? So that's how you can upsell all these records. And say, okay, point to this, you can use this, you can use Google. I think the cheapest Google workspace is less than 15K. Less than 10K safe. Yes, this was, yeah. If for Microsoft is a bit expensive, right? I think the cheapest is like 14K or something like that. And then you can do, or you can say, okay, you can even set up your email server just, to just basically get more money. If you want to tell a big organization, so let's say somebody reaches out to you from, or you got a connection with somebody who works with, let's say a government parastatal, something like customs, right? And they're like, oh, I want to buy domain. Just you said domain, yeah. You can buy server too. And you know that the profit margin between hosting origin is on on the server is wider, larger, and bigger than all these guys. You would offset that one to and say, okay, but instead of doing this, you can do your email server. You can buy email server. Don't worry. You know that the company that you're buying the server from will set it up for you. Obviously, you get somebody that can set it up. Or you said you can set it up. It's English. You can find the English set up online. Or find somebody that can pay small money and say, okay, yeah, okay, help me install the email server software. You just get the server, and then the email server. Most companies would help you, right? Most hosting provider, they can ask you to pay maybe like 10K for installation. Depends on them, anyways. Ask you to pay for installation, right? But you know you're making more money. So this is how you can upsell your, all these records. Like you can upsell, you can add more to what you offer as a reseller, rather than just sticking to domains, right? You can, so if you currently have a business already, you can expand your online presence. So let's say the blog shop. So a client has existing business.ng, that's a domain name, and also add a blog or an online shop, right? So like I mentioned the other time, that I can have my landing page or my own page on fit.ng, and then my booking page, or my what do you call it, the page where people make payment or they place order, right? I can have it on shop.freight.ng, right? You can do that. Like I said, the backup thing, right? Yes. And so a reseller you sell the CNAME records. You can say, you can use all this vessel and all that. You can decide to sell another domain basically. So because when you are doing you can sell a third level domain, right? The blog.existingbusiness.ng, you can sell that as a domain name as well and make more money. And you can also, help them to, like, okay, why don't you use what platform do you want to use? Okay, yeah, you want to use Blog, so why don't you use Blogspot? Let's use WordPress. Don't use WordPress. Let's use Netlify. What are you trying to build? Is it an app for what? Is it backend transactions? Is it a banking something? Do you other things? Yeah, you use AWS. You can be a reseller with AWS, and then you sell their services, and they will even give you reseller credits, and they will still give you your percentage. Basically, I think AWS is 20%, yes. 20%, yes, yeah, 20% off anything you sell, right? And so if you can easily expand your business online without needing new domains, leverage subdomains to segment your offerings and reach new audiences. I mean, that's how you can upsell to your resellers, your clients. So another scenario is improving email deliverability and trust. Also, all the the benefits. So since I mentioned the benefits of for all these external email providers, right? I'm still going to add more that you can for every hosting providers, right? There's always a limit. If you that's I mentioned that you can create webmails on cPanel. So there's always a limit to what you can actually. Sorry, just a minute. Okay, yeah, I think I'm almost done, right? So you can for every hosting provider, right? Like I was saying, they have a limit, right? For Go54, the limits on emails, right? We have limits on all our hosting packages for emails, right? So every provider does, right? Because they wouldn't want you to overwork because it's a shared hosting. But if you buy a server and say you want to put your content, you put everything on the server, your email, everything, your email security, your shop, your anything, your subdomain, you want to put it on one server. Fine. You are the owner of the server. So you buy whatever you want to buy based on your need, right? If you are buying a 20 gig server, the 20 gig space server, right? It means that you can have up to and let's say that your files is let's say like no more than 5 gig, all your files in heaven and earth, your subdomain, everything are no more than 5 gig, for example. So it means that you can have emails up to, let's say, 12 gig, because of course the setup, whatever application you are installing would also take its own space from this space, right? So that's why I said 12. So it means you can have up to 12 gig emails on that server. That's a lot. So if you do not want to do that and you just want to buy a shared hosting, now if you go for all these G Suite or something like that, it gives you bigger size, like it gives you bigger email sizes, right? So I think G Suite offer from like you see like 5 gig space for just one email. You have 20 gig, you have 15 gig, you have all these gigs, right? The same way you see on your Gmail, that I think Gmail is 5 gig, right? Yeah, I think Gmail is 5 gig. So you can't have more than that. You see, you cannot have more than that. But if you have used up your Gmail, Google will send you email that you should pay for extra space, right? Exactly. So that's the same way all these hosting providers have their limits. Even just if you buy this, there's a limit, but then you have more space than if you use a web hosting or a cPanel provider. If you create your cPanel webmail, right? So that's another benefit with all these professional email or enterprise email services like Google, Microsoft, Zoho, right? And then you can have your only one solution, like your for G Suite, right? You can have access to your Gemini, the Pro version. You can have that's the AI, right? You can have more. You can have excuse me. You can run meets without a limit right? To the number of people who can join. You can have like I think up to 8,000 users joining your Google Meets. You can have so many meetings like that. If you do like if you're Microsoft, you can have Teams, to have your meetings, to make it more official. You can have Slack, all this professional services. Basically, you can have the Google Chat for your internal chats. You don't have to use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is never secured, so it's not advisable to use for your business at all. I mean, for your staffs, if you want to discuss business with the client, of course, yes. And please don't share sensitive data on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is not secured. But it's because at the end of the day, it's a public registry, right? So you should not share personal details or anything. It can be hacked by anybody. Anything can happen basically, right? And you can use your details or your personal information as a blackmail or something. So so that's why you should have your corporate chats channel. You could use Slack, you can use Slack, you can use Teams, you can use um Google Chats and so on, even Zoom as well, right? So and you can use Slack on, I think yes, you can integrate Slack on Zoom as well. So for then you can have an all-in-one, solution. So I like so as a reseller, right? You're the expert. You can offer managed DNS services. You can taking the technical headache away from your entrepreneurs or your clients, basically. So basically, your marketing points or focus will be like, focus on your business and let us handle the technical complexities. Our DNS management ensures that your online services are always running smoothly and securely. It means that you can have you can actually create a DNS server for your reseller or to sell DNS, premium DNS actually. So somebody sells and you just create all this DNS for them actually. So I'm done actually. I don't even there's anybody that has a question or something.
All right, thank you so much, Faith, for the presentation. I guess if there's a question, it will be on the chat box. But since there's none, we'll just move ahead. If there's any question, we'll call your attention.
All right, thank you.
Thank you again, Faith. So moving on ahead, we're going to be going on to our last module, which is compliance and ethics. Compliance and ethics will be taken by Busayo Balogun, which is the head of corporate services for NiRA.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Busayo Balogun, and I'll be taking you briefly. I know we've had a long day. Thank you. So I will be speaking on the compliance and ethics for domain name resellers. I don't know, could you just confirm that you can hear me? And you can see my
Yes, we
screen?
can hear you.
Okay.
You can see us.
Thank you so much. Okay, so briefly, who are we? I think most of the speakers that have come before me have probably dwelt on this, but I'm just going to go over this briefly. NiRA is a not-for-profit, it's a non-governmental self-regulating body that manages the .ng CCTLD. NiRA is also a membership-based organization. And what is our vision here at NiRA? Our vision is we want to be the leading CCTLD registry. And how do we hope to achieve this? Is by ensuring that we deliver exceptional services and to harness valuable partnerships. Our mission is very, very simple, is to ensure that we administer the .ng CCTLD in a value-driven manner for all our stakeholders. We operate the 3R model, which is the registry, the registrar, and the registrants. And as of today, we have 142 accredited registrars that carry out the .ng domain name registration services. And they are spread all around the world. We have in Nigeria, we have in America, we have in Europe, in Africa. We have a global spread. Okay, so briefly, I'm just going to be talking about compliance, and the various aspects. When we talk about compliance, when we say compliance, what do we mean? What are we talking about? So it's at this point, I'm going to throw open the floor because, again, I do not like speaking. I like my presentation. I like my session to be interactive. So I'm just going to go through the participant list and I'm going to call somebody. So now, I think this name is calling my name. Ajayoba Ajibola. Are you still on this call? Are you still with us? Ajibola Ajayoba. Are you there?
Yes, she answered on the comment section.
Okay, I was thinking she will mute her mic so that we can hear your voice. Let me turn on my video. Okay, while we are waiting, maybe I'll just jump to Ebube Chuko. I apologize, Ebube. Is Ebube there?
Yes, I'm present.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I thought Ebube was female, but forgive me. Okay, so I just want to ask you, what do you think when you hear compliance and ethics? What comes to your mind?
In a nutshell, it's basically to abide by the terms and conditions or rules guiding the organization of firm.
Okay, I'll take that. So basically, compliance means that you're adhering to rules, you're respecting rules, you're ensuring that whatever process, whatever steps, whatever actions you take is in line with set rules, laws and standards. Yes, I would take that. So there are various aspects of compliance. We talk about legal compliance. We can also talk about regulatory compliance, talk about corporate, financial, data, and operational, various aspects. When we talk about legal compliance, what are we talking about? It's very simple. There are laws and regulations that have been enacted, by the various governmental bodies, which also impact on our business. These are laws that we cannot ignore. We must comply to avoid penalties. So as you're carrying out your business, you want to become a reseller, we must understand that it's not just about getting customers. We're actually running a business, and running a business means that, there are laws and regulations that govern the business that we do. And we must also ensure that we, are complying, we are adhering to these regulations that may have been enacted by the different regulatory bodies. We also have regulatory compliance, which are industry specific standards, So I could be in for instance, maybe the financial sector, and then we have, certain regulations that also govern the way, they do business. If a finance, you have the CBN regulations, you have the SEC, so, there are always industry-specific standards, and regulations. And we have the corporate compliance, which has to do with our in-house, our internal policies, in the company, in the reseller business that you're running. There will be internal policies, there will be procedures that you have put in place, to ensure that you maintain certain ethical standards by your business. And then we have financial compliance, ensuring that we are delivering, accurate and financial reporting, ensuring that we are complying with, accounting standards, ensuring that we are paying the right tax, we are adhering to law, we're not just doing business, we're also paying our tax, we are being tax compliant. And then we have the data compliance. We all know that data is such a huge thing. In Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Data Protection Act, which governs and protects, the individual's personal data. So we also have that. We also have operational compliance, ensuring that what we do in our business, our day-to-day, operations conform to internal and external guidelines. I'll go to the next slide. So we talk about ethics. I don't know, is there anyone that want to share what they understand by ethics? What are ethics? We hear people say, oh, the ethics of the profession, or the ethics, to protect our business ethics. But what does it mean when you say ethics? Okay, let me go to my participant list again and call someone. Does anybody want to volunteer? Anyone? Anybody? Justice, do you want to tell us what you understand by ethics?
I think basically a way values, the way the organization carry out their duties.
Okay, you say the ways. Okay. When you talk about ways, you're referring to the principles, right? You're referring to standards. All right.
Yes.
No, thank you so much, Justice. You're actually correct. So when people say ethics, what are you saying? Just your principles. You enter into some organizations, so they tell you, oh, this is our ethics, our principle. We don't do that. There are standards that they have put in place to ensure that, to govern, their business, the behavior of the staff, the employees, to ensure that they are doing what they consider as, fair, what they consider as being right. And then we have various aspects of this ethics. We have the moral, principles, and then, the belief of, okay, this is right, this is wrong, and this is what will guide, our behavior, how we take decisions in our business. We also have values. So you go to each organization, you see on their walls or maybe on the frame somewhere attached, in one particular conspicuous place. You say, oh, what are our values? Oh, our values, integrity, transparency, accountability, What are those? Those are just the ethics, those are the beliefs, those are the standards that the organization, the business has determined that, okay, these are the values, these are the beliefs that we are going to, work with to differentiate our business or our organization from the next, business. This is what they believe on. This is the ethics they want to work with, And then you have integrity, fairness, accountability, respect. These are usually very common, values that you would see around, that your business say, oh, we want to be known for our integrity, we are fair, this is what we know when you talk about ABC reseller business or this business, this is what we want our customers, to know us with, and so on, and so forth. So I've highlighted the integrity, what does integrity, consistency in your actions, your values, fairness, making sure you treat all your individuals, your customers and situations, justly without bias. And then, of course, being accountable is being responsible for your action, and being answerable to your customers. And then respect is honoring the dignity, the rights and views of others. So yes, and then these are also the key aspects. I think I've talked about this transparency and all, but I will go to the next slide where I would expatiate more on it. So some of the concepts that we have under the compliance and ethics, we have the transparency and honest communication. And what does this entail? Just ensuring that whatever information that you're providing, to your customers, maybe in terms of domain name registration, renewal, ensuring that, it is clear, you're giving correct information, so that you are not misleading your customers. Ensure that you're disclosing fees, all the fees. Don't hide, don't put some hidden charge somewhere, everything should be transparent, should be disclosed so that your customer is aware that, okay, this is the service I'm coming for and this is the fee. There should be transparency, the communication should be open, it should be honest. And then obviously I've talked about data privacy and security, business, of course, because of the business that we are dealing with, the domain name registration and reseller, you are going to be collecting a lot of data. And it is our duty to ensure that this data that we collect, we protect this data. And then there are obviously regulations in place to ensure that we comply with it. We have the NDPA, the Nigeria Data Protection Act, which is applicable in Nigeria. We have the GDPR, which is applicable in the European Union. So in addition to the privacy, security is also very important. So because payments be made, and then we have to ensure that these payments gateways of paying for domain names or renewals, it is very secure. And one way of providing this security is through encryption. So, the data cannot be seen, it's been encrypted. So even if it's hijacked, you can't see, those information. And then we have, the ethical marketing, ensuring that whatever information we put out there in the name of marketing, branding is actually true. We are not relying or providing false, claims or claims that are so exaggerated, things that we cannot do in our advertising. Just make sure that we keep it ethical. What we say we can do is what you can actually do, because a lot of people are going to rely on that information that you are sharing and take a decision. So we have to ensure that whatever it is we are putting out there, whatever materials, whatever advertising, branding materials that we put out there and trying to push our reseller business is actually true, and then again, this respecting privacy has to do with, not because you have customers' data or information, you now start spamming them emails or even selling this information to third parties, where your customer starts receiving unsolicited messages, and they're asking, how did you get my contact? How did you get my email, So we also have to respect, the privacy of our customers. And then I talked about the ethical business practice, avoid cyber squatting, trademark infringement, which is quite popular. You see people trying to register other people's trademarks, with the hope that, the owners will come and probably offer them, benefits, or they are able to work out something. Yeah, in some cases we find that, and then in some cases you have some, trademark owners that will not want to go down that route. So we also have to ensure that we put that in mind. We know that we go out, deliberately to register, people's trademarks. And then also we have to ensure that we are doing fair competition. We are not using unfair tactics to try to gain an advantage over our competitors. Okay, then in training and awareness, very important. We have to ensure that we continually train our staff, our employees. Some might leave. We have to ensure that you keep on training. The ones that will leave, the new ones that will come in, ensure that they are trained on the compliance, the ethics of your business, the best customer service practice. Just this would also help, to promote a culture, because again, it's one thing for a business to say, this is how we want to do business, this is our ethics, this is what guides us. And it's another thing passing that on to your staff, because again, your staff are the people that would I think they're the best representation of what you say your business is. So it's very important that you train your staff, and they also, they are aware of what values or what you want to be known, what your business wants to be known for. And then I also talked about regulatory compliance, which is what I've spoken about, just compliance with your local laws, your regulations, and all that. Then the one very important thing I'll touch on, customer support and service, which I think can really make, mar your business, make it or mar it. It's very, very, very important that your customer support has to be very responsive. And when I mean responsive, we're talking that they're providing timely, support, to address your customer support. And I think this is like one of the major things that can actually differentiate your business, your reseller business from the other. Customers want to come, they have an issue, they want timely, response. Even if, like I say, even if at that moment you're not able to provide a solution, just acknowledging receipts and saying, oh, there this, we acknowledge, we would get back to you. I think for me, it shows that you are a business that actually respects, the customers. You might not have like a, solution at that point, but at least acknowledge, let them know that, oh, we hear you, we've seen it, and we're working towards it. We'll provide a feedback as soon as we're able, to. And then I always would advise that you should have like a dispute resolution in-house complaint system, because like I said earlier, there's some customers that go into, they actually target, the domains, trademark domains that, have trademarks. So as a business, as a reseller business, you should have like a simple, dispute resolution, because how do you want to handle these complaints when they come in? You have a customer saying, oh, I've come in, somebody registered. How do you want to handle that? So there has to be like, an established policy in place in-house. Doesn't have to be anything bogus. It just has to be very simple. Okay, how do we do this? When this complaints comes in, what do we do? What are the next steps? How do we do it? Who do we reach out to? This, it doesn't have to be very bogus, but at least there should be a system in place, to handle that. And obviously financial integrity, very, very important. How do you keep your records, your billing? How do you invoice for services? Because again, all this would impact on your tax liability, or the tax implication. So you have to ensure that you're keeping, like an accurate record, billing record, and all. And then also you have to implement measures to prevent fraudulent activities. You have to put that in place. Yes, I know you might say, but we're just a small business, just a reseller business. Like I said, it doesn't have to be anything very bogus. It just has to be, okay, when complaints like this are received, what do we do? What is the next step? Who should they address it? Who should they address it to? What should we do as a business? How do we want to handle issues like this, going forward? Do we need the help of this? Do we do this? Just putting those little things, measures in place can really, make a difference. And I think for my end, that will be all. Again, I said this is going to be a short presentation because I know we've been here since morning. I don't want to take any more of your time, but if you have any questions, it's open. I'm here. And thank you for giving me your time. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, Ma, for that presentation. So once again, thank you for joining us. I hope you succeed in your careers as and in your business rather, as a reseller of the .ng domain.